Welcome back to AI Chronicles, everyone. I'm here with my guest Melania from AI4ALL Solutions, whom, by the way, I met at an event I hosted last month. And she gave a talk on AI maturity and how companies are thinking about adoption of AI. It stuck with me, and thus, here we are. Hi, Melania. How are you doing?
Good, good. Thank you so much for the invite. I appreciate kind of the opportunity to share a little bit more, kind of follow up on what I presented.
I really enjoyed your talk at the event last month, and I just wanted to get deeper into it and talk about, strategy, implementation, and just like in general, how AI has been evolving so far. So, I know that you work closely with organizations on the AI strategy and implementation. So, from your perspective, where do you think most companies actually stand today when it comes to AI maturity? Like, are we seeing the progress beyond just the pilot project phase?
I'm really happy you're starting with this question because that is definitely something that is truly prevalent right now. And understanding that messy reality of AI adoption. And from what I see, I would say sort of the honest answer is most organizations are kind of in between. So they're still
Hmm.
exploring, trying to adopt, not really knowing exactly how to get to that scale. But
Hmm.
what I noticed more recently is the conversation is a little bit changing. So up until now, everybody has been in this FOMO for we have to have AI. How do we adopt AI? We need to have agents. How many agents do we have? Why don't we have more? What are we trying to create with AI? And just this week, I was actually reading an article in CIO magazine.
Mm.
They published an article called "The Great AI Reset," which basically documents how technology leaders are moving from looking at AI just from having to do something with it and running pilots to really thinking about, okay, what's the business value? How are we using AI to solve real business problems?
Mm.
And that is actually why I'm saying the conversation is finally changing. And as one of the technology leaders put it in the article, up until now has been a lot of sizzle and less steak, meaning everybody has been rushing to just adopt AI and apply it for whatever use case they could think of, when in fact, achieving real value with AI or any technology for that matter, you have to start with the first step. What customer problem are we solving with AI? Is AI even the solution for that problem? And are we solving real problems that will help our business move forward? Or are we just inventing, reaching really far out for something that is not really something useful for the business just to say that we are applying AI?
Mm-hmm.
This shift is how I'm kind of seeing that organizations leaders are maybe making that shift or move from experimenting just being AI first in
Mm-hmm.
talking about it to how to bring AI to create business value, and then kind of linking everything from a business KPI to operational metrics to model metrics, and having that full chain visible, build cross-functional trust, operational discipline. That's sort of the maturity that we
Mm.
see, or at least what I see for companies and leaders moving away from just experimenting to actually being able to get more AI operational.
That makes a lot of sense, and I totally align with your point of view. I'm curious, what did you mean by like the operational maturity, or you said two words. What was that? Like, can you elaborate?
Operational discipline, yeah.
Discipline, yes. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. That's definitely something I often use with my clients. Usually, the way I approach the work I do with executives and investors is kind of understanding where they want to be
Mm-hmm.
with AI and where they actually are. So, having that technical honesty to assess what is the current mess in their tech infrastructure, how their data is organized. Wherever you go in the tech industry, things will be messy. And just acknowledging what the status of things are, where you want to go, and putting all that in a structured AI execution roadmap.
Mm-hmm.
So that's sort of the operational discipline that I'm talking about, and being just very honest and clear about how to achieve the in between milestones.
Hmm. Makes sense. And do you think the operational discipline and is it just restricted or limited to the tech industry or like other, for example, non-tech industries who are trying to adopt AI into their business? Will this be also relevant to them?
That will be even more relevant for them. If anything, they are the ones that would really need to understand that concept, because for any tech company that has worked with SaaS before or has built AI based products or machine learning based products, they are used to a certain sort of level of checkpoints from kind of experimenting with the model, understanding what type of flags and checkpoints need to be put in production in order to understand where the model fails, how to deal with the backup in case the model fails. But companies that are not tech first or haven't been really immersed in the tech sector need to build that muscle.
Mm-hmm.
So there, I would say the sort of the broader operational discipline will need to be broken into a few more sub blocks. And the first piece, as I mentioned, kind of understanding where they are, how ready they are for AI, really looking at whether their technical teams and their business teams are
Mm-hmm.
even speaking the same language when it comes to technology. Because very often they will just look at the same, we want to solve this problem with AI, but they will just have very different ways of articulating that.
Mm-hmm.
And next to that, I will say a general clarity of how the entire organization should operate with AI. So
Mm-hmm.
thinking of a human AI boundary. So where should the humans intervene? So if the whatever system is built with AI, if that fails, what's the fallback?
Mm-hmm.
Um, should AI just suggest decisions and humans approve everything? Or should AI execute certain things within guardrails and alert humans only when confidence is low? So what's the operational, what are the operational steps across the entire organization?
Mm-hmm.
And the third one I will say is the purposeful deployment. So really understanding and measuring um, everything, not just how accurate the model is or how fast the process or the AI agent now runs tasks, but really bringing all that together, all
Mm-hmm.
the way from even how much time it saves to the teams now operating more with AI, how much money it saves quarterly, how much more time it actually takes if the system was not built properly and now engineers have to go and debug, find where kind of the whole system failed without necessarily throwing an error flag. So
Mm-hmm.
building these three foundation blocks,
Mm-hmm.
more generally known as like data governance, feedback
Mm-hmm.
loop, human in the loop. This is the unglamorous work, and
Yeah.
definitely for non-tech companies, these are critical because otherwise just individual teams will experiment with AI in different corners of the organization. And even if the pilots are great and might deliver brilliant business value, they just don't have the visibility and understanding at the
Mm-hmm.
broader, higher level, kind of at leadership understanding level. So then it creates both failure with the experimentation, which at times can be expensive, both in terms of personal satisfaction to the team that has tried it, as well as actually paying and trying out the different vendors and different tools. Um, but also kind of prevents actual evolution and actual ability to move forward with AI.
Yeah. That is so well said. And like speaking about, how the fast AI is evolving and like you deal with lots of leaders and, starting all the like leaders thinking about how to adopt and then the three foundations you mentioned as well. How are you seeing leaders handle this space? Are most of them just trying to keep up tactically, or do you think that some of them are like, using these fundamentals that you said or foundational approaches to make it more long-term and systemic approach?
That's a great question. It's a spectrum. So basically, what I've observed is three categories of leaders.
Mhm.
Number one, those that are still sort of in a uh, chaotic, kind of not really knowing what to do. They react to every time there's a model release, every time there's a new viral LinkedIn threads about, I know, tools that will replace entire teams,
Oh
any
yeah.
competitor announcement, every vendor pitch, they just continuously react and continuously feel like, oh, we're behind, we're not doing anything. And I call this just absolute tactical chaos. There's just no way for them to actually understand what type of decisions they should make on AI.
Mhm.
And honestly, the entire AI influencer ecosystem keeps fueling it with
Yeah.
just this endless hype, zero depth in whatever statements they make, and then leaders are just drowning in the noise because they don't have the right levers and tools to actually get through the noise.
Mhm.
Those that stop chasing all this, that's second category. And those leaders are now moving towards kind of asking more substantial questions, as in, are we ready for AI? If not, how do we get there? What do we need to have going in order to actually start adopting at scale AI within the organization? And
Mhm.
they start building or they start following more systematic frameworks to assess readiness, define success metrics for AI tooling within the organization, create that sort of shared language between technical and business teams, making sure that everybody is aligned.
Mhm.
um, and I would say this category of leaders and organizations that fit here are now understanding that yes, technology evolves very quickly. Organizational readiness evolves significantly slower. So investing into creating the infrastructure and governance that is able to move the organization as the technology evolves, that will actually create value and keep their business competitive. And the
Mhm.
third group of leaders, which I find most fascinating, and I would say it's just now emerging, are
Mhm.
those leaders that don't ask anymore, how should we adopt AI, what AI can do for our business? They are asking, how can AI redefine who we can be? How can it help us reimagine our products and
Mhm.
services, our entire user experience, our customer experience, completely from the ground up? So thinking of AI as a foundation, not just an add-on, and just fundamentally rethinking the entire product. Um, and for example, think of a financial planning tool where um, it doesn't really just read any form of financial reports and gives you a summary, but it actually can reason and provide suggestions having that entire context. Or
Mhm.
a project management tool that can look at a full system and potentially even anticipate blockers before that happens, or an
Mhm.
educational tool that learns real time, adapting to how each student thinks. So really rethinking how, while when intelligence is native to the product, what is that full experience? And this category, to me, I think they are the AI leaders of tomorrow, because
Mhm.
they're not looking at AI anymore as how it helps us do things faster or be more efficient. They look at AI as AI enables us to do things that were never possible before.
Mhm.
And in order to answer that or build such experiences, it's actually counterintuitive that they are slowing down their pace of evolution, of creating a sort of AI based products, or how they deploy AI in the organization, because they want to architect those foundations where now AI is the native to how
Mhm.
everything gets built from there. So while the entire ecosystem around them screams, move faster, new model released, 10 agents are coming and whatnot, they are actually doing things a little more slower. So this is definitely not for the faint of heart. These
Mhm.
leaders really have to have that long-term and a long-term systemic thinking, because this level of augmentation and transformation cannot happen overnight. It needs to have a long-term plan, and they
Yeah.
need to keep at it. They cannot just be steering and changing directions every month. Um, yeah, I do believe that organizations with such leaders will actually redefine their categories, their industries, as they come out with those sort of completely transformed experiences.
Agree. And I think
What about
like
you? You talk to a lot of founders and executives. What kind of mentors do you see?
yeah, I mean, yeah, I keep seeing like the kind of leaders that you mentioned. Those are definitely something like some people or the category of people I've met, especially in founders. And I absolutely echo what you said that, founders are moving from experimentation to execution. And I think like early on, it was chaos. Everybody testing models, chasing demos and whatnot. And now like the pattern is like it's focus and integration, picking clear use cases, setting up data foundations, building small internal AI teams, and then aligning projects with business outcomes. Like you, most of what you said, like it totally makes sense, and that's exactly the kind of pattern that I'm seeing as well. That mindset shift. It's like from let's try AI to let's make AI work reliably and measurably. And the third category of leaders that you mentioned, it's like I believe that those are the people who are believing that AI is here to augment, not
Hmm.
exactly replace. So use them as what they are supposed to be the like have them as your co-pilot. And yeah, yeah, that's what I think as well.
That's awesome.
Um, cool. Let's flip the story a little bit.
Hmm.
What are some of the common mistakes you see organizations make when they jump into AI too quickly or without a clear framework?
Yeah, the biggest mistake, and for a long time also misconception, is treating AI as a plug and play. So kind of confusing the capability that you get
Mm,
in solving things with AI for purpose, and bringing AI into a system to build
mm,
products or create different experiences for your customers. That requires having clean data,
uh-huh,
uh, because whatever mess exists in the data, AI is only gonna explode it further and faster and make it a lot more visible. So clean data, being able to iterate until kind of the full workflow is very clear, and of course, human oversight.
mm,
Um, a real case I saw recently where a team built an autonomous data pipeline agent. So going
okay.
down the hype of agent. And this particular agent would distill various departments' roadmap execution progress into KPIs that were then published into an executive dashboard.
Mm,
Metrics look great. Every time the executive team looked at the dashboard, it looked like everybody was doing their job great. They saw fun, fascinating numbers in there, and yeah, things move forward. And when the sort of the operational reality kind of emerged, uh,
mm,
and some bad data made its way through all the way to the dashboard without
oh boy.
nobody knowing about it, then the engineering team had to spend hours doing detective work to understand where that was coming from. Because that's another thing about AI. When it fails, it doesn't really raise a flag that, hey, I made an error. As long as the agent completed a task, great. That's what it was meant to do. So it didn't signal that it completed the task incorrectly. And now, then leadership kind of lost trust in the tool. Overall, kind of organization wide, the confidence in scaling further with agents, that confidence also disappeared. So again, that's why I'm saying confusing capability with purpose, or treating AI as a plug and play. That that
Mm-hmm.
that is a common mistake, because at the end of the day, the purpose of this agent was reliable decision making, and it failed that. And in general, looking at a tool to be reliable, explainable, and reproducible. These are critical for the system, and this has been the case ever since software existed. It's just now AI is so front and center to everything that we do, and taking care of these aspects of explainability, reproducibility, reliability.
Yeah.
It was kind of out of mind, out of sight for leaders. It
Yeah.
was something that the engineering teams had to deal with, or the data science teams. But now it needs to be done at organizational level if you want to truly adopt AI across the entire organization. And that's, I think, the bigger friction, and the where education needs to be kind of done more profoundly with business teams or non-technical teams and leaders.
AI literacy. That's what I
Exactly.
would think. Yeah. Yeah, just
Exactly.
yesterday I was talking to someone and he mentioned the same thing, that the gap that they still see in the industry is the AI literacy among the professionals, the industry professionals. And it's just, yeah, and you're telling me the same thing. It's like there is so much more to learn about. And I didn't realize that, the responsible AI part or tracing and monitoring where your agent went wrong, those tools or those techniques are not just for engineering and data science team. It now needs to scale up to the leadership or just overall organization. That is just so important. Totally makes sense.
Yeah, that's why even earlier I was talking about this kind of shared language between
Yeah.
technical and non-technical teams, because everybody needs to understand what failure looks like.
Yeah.
Because yeah, it's not just gonna be a bug in the code that somebody will go find it easily because there's an error message, go debug it, fix it, and everything is great again.
Yeah, no, I agree. And speaking of like, the present and the futuristic, uh, given your experience, if you have to look ahead, what do you think the business leader should be doing today to
Hmm.
ensure that they're not just, chasing trends, because half the time we get stuck in just following the trends and not really figuring out if it makes sense, but also like building this AI capabilities that actually scale responsibly for the next few years.
Yeah, that's really important, and I hope all the leaders listening to this will take notes of the things that you're bringing up as how to look forward.
Mm-hmm.
From my perspective, what I would recommend is number one, start with honestly assessing how ready you are. So
Mm,
not where you want to be, not where competitors claim they are, not where your investors want you to be or expect you to be, is where you really are. What your data stack is, that well organized? Is there
yeah.
a clear ownership for every level of your data, of your systems? How do you measure operational impacts of
Mm-hmm.
anything that is done within the organization? And again, kind of going back to operational metrics, not just model accuracy or model performance and business KPIs, but that's how do things actually work in the organization, and how do teams measure that? So
Mm,
that's the starting point. Then the alignment gaps. We already talked about AI literacy and kind of communication gap between technical and non-technical teams. So that will be sort of the next piece, kind of really understanding that AI is a probabilistic system. So
yeah.
expecting deterministic reliability and then blaming the system for being probabilistic, that is not a way to make progress.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of closing that gap, understanding where communication is breaking down
Mm-hmm.
between what the technical teams say, what the business teams hear, and building that bridge, that is actually a lot more valuable than building more models or creating more agents. And
That's.
then kind of creating that visibility, because we already touched on that. So
Mm-hmm.
map the full value chain
Mm-hmm.
from um, okay, if we do deploy AI somewhere, either as a new service, as an agent, or creating a new product, what's the value? Where does it fail? And
Mm-hmm.
who be responsible for changing things? Who owns things that happen, the decisions? So making that visible to everybody, because that's will enable
Mm-hmm.
confidence in scaling adoption across different teams, different departments, different product lines. And part of that will be sort of defining the human AI boundaries explicitly. So
Mm-hmm.
humans intervene, how much is fully automated, what are the critical points where humans do need to come and make decisions, and have that defined before things are deployed, not after things break in production. So and last, I would say kind of creating that culture of honesty. So engineers and data scientists feel comfortable telling the executive team, here's where the system will fail,
Uh-huh.
and not being worried that that will in some way affect their job or will create any sort of political tension within the company. But without this culture for honesty, whatever bigger AI initiative, that's gonna fail, or it
Yeah.
will take very long time until there's actual value and success visible.
Mhm. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Awesome. Um, that was such an insightful conversation. Like I got like gems of knowledge and insights from you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your grounded perspective on how organizations can approach AI with both ambition and responsibility. And I believe that's how, especially the upcoming startups and the current big tech, they should like keep in mind. So yeah, thank you again for this discussion. And my dear listeners, if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to share it with somebody who's leading or thinking about AI transformation in their organization. Thank you
Thanks
very
for having
much.
me.